Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm Derek from Simnett Nutrition, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the 5 foods you should always buy organic. So I'm sure a bunch of you saw this article a few weeks back, and it was a bit alarming to say the least. So I'll leave a link down below so you can check it out for yourself. But basically, in a report by the CDC, they found that 80% of urine samples collected from children and adults in the United States contained the popular herbicide glyphosate. And you may know it by its more common name called Roundup. Yes, the weed killer, the stuff that you see your neighbors like spraying on their lawns, spraying on their weeds, trying to kill stuff. And it's meant to kill absolutely everything that it touches, but it doesn't always, and we'll talk about that a little later in this video. Anyways, it got me thinking a lot about our food and everything that they're spraying on it, and while most of the food that I purchase is organic, I don't always highlight that in my videos. And the goal of this channel is to help people eat and enjoy more whole plant-based foods. Organic or not, they are always going to be the best option, but I think after watching this video, you might be a little bit more selective on what foods you do buy conventionally grown and what you buy organic. So while glyphosate is an herbicide, they also spray pesticides and fungicides on our food too. However, just to make it easy for this video, I will often be using the word pesticides as a blanket statement to cover all of those unless I need to be specific. So they spray a lot of stuff on our food, and it's ridiculous that so much of this is still allowed. And I'm fired up, I am angry, and so should you be. So rather than getting mad and just, being quiet about it all, I'm going to educate. It is not about trying to scare anyone, have anybody fearful about food. It is just meant to equip you with more knowledge so you can make better choices, to improve your health. So it should be noted that not all pesticides are as harmful as others. There's definitely a range, and even organic farming uses some pesticides. However, they cannot be derived synthetically. They have to be made from natural origins. They're generally not as harmful, and they're more closely regulated. So it's important to remember that we vote with our dollars. So every time we're buying that conventionally grown, sprayed food, we are telling them, this is okay with us, grow more of it, please. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not okay with it. So the reason I've chosen these 5 foods is not only are they high in pesticide residue, but it's also foods that I eat a lot of. So it doesn't really matter too much to me if some random food like asparagus or apricots or something is really high in pesticides. Of course, I'd prefer if they weren't, but I don't eat much of those foods. So it's much more important for me to be conscious of the foods I eat a lot of in order to minimize my pesticide exposure. And just before we get into the list, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, yeah, but organic food is so much more expensive, Derek. However, after doing a little bit of research and watching this video, I think you're gonna figure out that it is definitely worth the extra expense. And it's not even always that much more expensive. For instance, check out this kale I found at the store today. The organic kale was the same price and the same amount as the non-organic kale. But I will give you guys some tips at the end on, how to get pesticides off of the food if you do buy conventional, how to, make organic buying cheaper and all that sort of stuff. But let's get into this list. So food number 1 that you should always buy organic has got to be oats. So this is going to apply to other grains as well, like wheat and barley, but definitely oats. We use a lot of oats around here. It's so versatile. I mean, oatmeal, cookies, muffins, pancakes, just about every day I'm eating some form of oats. Non-organic oats have some of the highest levels of pesticide residues of any food out there, and especially glyphosate. So what I found interesting when I was researching for this is that different foods have different allowable levels. So check out this list that I found here. So I'm up here in Canada, it should be mentioned, but this is the MRLs, maximum residue levels allowable in certain foods. And you can see oats have a much higher allowable level than most other foods. The reason why oats have such high levels is because glyphosate is often sprayed on them really close to harvest, and they use it as what's called a desiccant or a drying agent. So what it does is not only does it kill all the weeds and everything around them, making it easier for them to harvest, but it also kills the plant itself and dries it out. So this means that, no fungus or bugs or anything like that are gonna wanna eat it, but they expect you to eat it. And get this one, in recent tests, scientists found that if pesticide content were required on the ingredient label of Honey Nut Cheerios, like with other ingredients, it would actually fall above the added vitamins D and B12. There's more pesticide by weight than vitamin B12 and vitamin D in Cheerios. And let's not forget that they've told us that this stuff is safe for years. Do you guys remember a few years back when they had some advocate on live TV saying that he was so confident that it was safe that he would drink a glass of it?
You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
And then when the interviewer actually said,
you want to drink some? We have some.
He said,
I'd be happy to, actually, but not really, but
I have some glyphosate.
no, I'm not stupid.
but I guess they think that we are. So more and more evidence keeps coming out that's telling us that this is not as safe as we were originally told. So, you know, a couple weeks ago it was that article finding it in people's urine, and now this that I just found. Check this one out. In this very recent study by Arizona State University, they have found that this popular herbicide crosses the blood-brain barrier and causes a chain of reactions which can lead to a host of diseases, one of the most common being Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. Not to mention its effects on our hormones, on our immune systems, on our inflammatory responses. So after hearing about this link with Alzheimer's, I got a little curious in my studies and I decided to check out when Alzheimer's rates started to really increase. And I found this chart here that shows mortality rates for Alzheimer's disease and other dementias for West Virginia residents. And you can see by looking at it, it starts to increase at around 1998, 1999, pretty sharply. Then I thought it might be interesting just to see when glyphosate started to become heavily used in that same area. Oh wow, and would you look at that, just around a year before, around 1997, 1998, glyphosate use seems to increase. So, oh boy, yeah, so I'm sure it's not related, nothing to see here. Anyways, let's move on to the next one, and that is chickpeas. So we love chickpeas around here. They are so versatile as well. I mean, you know, we put them in stir fries, make hummus out of them. There's even like, you know, tons of chickpea pastas out nowadays. So we're eating a lot of chickpeas around here. However, unfortunately, chickpeas, like with oats, and the same does apply to like lentils and beans, unfortunately, they have found to have extremely high levels of glyphosate residue. And this is the same reason. It's because it's sprayed on so close to harvest. They spray it around the crop to control weeds. This makes it easier for them to harvest, and the crop itself isn't competing for light, water, nutrients with any undesirable plants. But interestingly enough, the more that they use this herbicide, the more glyphosate resistant weeds there are. And yeah, just like almost as if you can't beat Mother Nature at her own game. So I know organic chickpeas can be pretty expensive when you buy them in individual cans. So one thing that we do is we buy like cases of organic chickpea cans from Costco. That's one way to bring the cost down. And of course, another one is to buy them dried like this and cook them yourself in like a pot or Instant Pot, like a pressure cooker is perfect for cooking these. And this jar of organic chickpeas cost me less than $5. So I think that's not too bad. Food number 3 is strawberries. So I love frozen strawberries year-round and fresh strawberries whenever they are available. However, this is one food I always make sure to buy organic, and that is because strawberries consistently have some of the most amount of pesticides on them compared to any other food. And I'm not talking about like the levels. The levels are high, but the most variety, like the most different types sprayed on them. Non-organic strawberries tested by scientists at the Department of Agriculture in 2015 and 2016 contained an average of 7.8 different pesticides per sample compared to the 2.2 pesticides per sample for all other produce. And now what's interesting is that they test this stuff to see if it's like safe on humans or whatever, and they come to their conclusions. However, they never test all of these different chemicals together to see what the result might be on human health. Anyways, just an interesting thought. California data showed that in 2014, nearly 300 pounds of pesticides were applied to each acre of strawberries, an astonishing amount compared to about 5 pounds of pesticides per acre of corn. 300 pounds of pesticides per acre for strawberries versus 5 pounds per acre for corn. It's incredible, those numbers. That is a lot of pesticides. So they're spraying a lot of different stuff on conventional strawberries. And one that stuck out to me was one called carbendazim. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but this one has been shown to affect male fertility, obviously in a negative way. But you know, that one jumped out at me. You can find this information on a website called What's in Your Food, and they list all the different pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and stuff that are in each food. You might want to check it out. I'll put a link in the description box. And as if it couldn't get any worse, strawberry growers use massive amounts of what's called fumigants. And these are chemicals that they spray over top of the soil just before they plant to basically sterilize the soil and the fields so that there's, no fungus, no bugs or anything like that that is gonna try and attack or harm the strawberry crop. However, I wonder if this is one of the reasons why they continue to have to use more and more pesticides on this stuff to keep it growing. I don't know. So if you're gonna buy strawberries, get them organic. Frozen or not, just make sure they're organic. So number 4 is spinach. So this definitely applies to other leafy greens as well, like kale, like green leaf lettuce too. But some of the information I have in here is specific to spinach, so that's why I've chose to highlight this. So if you've ever tried to grow your own greens, you will know how much the bugs just love them. We have selectively bred these plants to produce big, beautiful, nutritious, and tender leaves. But in the process, many have lost their natural defenses and are susceptible to bugs. So in traditional farming, they need to heavily spray these in order to control it. This is the reason why, on average, spinach samples had 1.8 times as much pesticide residue by weight as any other crop tested. So we eat lots of greens around this house, and so should you, but they should definitely be organic. So saving the best for last, number 5 is tofu. So if you're anything like me, you guys eat a lot of tofu, and this is one you definitely want to make sure is organic or non-GMO at the very least. So it's the same deal with soy as it is with oats, chickpeas, lentils. They are heavily sprayed close to harvest. So this is one of the reasons why they have such high levels of pesticides, and in particular, glyphosate. One thing that they've done to soybeans is they've genetically modified them to be resistant to glyphosate. You guys may have heard them called Roundup Ready seeds. Basically what this means is that they've been genetically programmed to withstand the spraying of that weed killer. So they can spray as much of that stuff on it as they want, and the plant will not die. And like with oats, they have very high allowable levels of pesticide residue on it. So check this out. From the exact same chart, you can see how high the levels are for both oats and soy compared to the other foods. And get this, as if that's not enough, Health Canada, the regulatory body that is supposed to be looking out for our health, is actually trying to increase the allowable levels of glyphosate and other pesticides allowed on our food. And you can just imagine the repercussions of this. Like, it's obviously not going to be good for our health. It's not going to be good for the health of the fields and the soil and all that. But we could become a dumping ground for high pesticide level foods from, some other countries around the world. And not only that, we might have trouble exporting our grains to countries that have actual reasonable limits on pesticides that are allowed on their food, like Europe, for instance. And this doesn't only affect soy eating vegans, first of all, most of us eat most of these foods. But if you think about what is being fed to the livestock, we know that, a lot of them get a lot of GMO soy, corn, oats, different grains, and these are the most heavily sprayed foods. So then, the animals, the cows, the livestock are eating this, and then people are eating the livestock, and it's just a whole mess. And then the livestock, they're getting sick. This can't be good for them. So then they're having to give them more antibiotics. Oh God, it's terrible. All right, so just to conclude about the soy, not all non-organic soy is gonna be genetically modified. A lot of the time, the soy that you'll see in the store that's conventionally grown has a little non-GMO label on it. So definitely look for that if you can't find organic soy, because that is going to be a little bit less sprayed, but organic soy is definitely going to be your best option. So I'll put links to the stuff I discussed in the description box down below if you guys want to check it out further, and definitely check out the EWG.org website, the Environmental Working Group. They do some amazing work, and they're the ones responsible for the Dirty Dozen list and the Clean 15. So those are, foods that have the most pesticides and the least pesticides. So definitely check that out if you're interested. So I just want to be clear, I love farmers and I appreciate what they do so much. I don't want this video to be, me bashing farmers. This is more bashing the system. I understand that farmers have, actually I don't understand, but I know that they have a really hard job. Their margins are really low, and a lot of the time they are forced and pressured into these more industrial farming practices just to make ends meet. So what has to change is the system. The system needs to change. We need people who are in charge of these things that are not being influenced by the industries and the companies that they're trying to regulate. And we also need people that know the dangers of these chemicals that are being put onto our food, because I don't think that the people who are trying to increase the levels here in Canada, for instance, actually know the dangers of these things. They couldn't, or else they wouldn't do this. But let me show you guys how you can get some pesticides off of conventionally grown produce. Baking soda and water. This is the best way to remove pesticide residues from produce. So just throw a bit of baking soda into some water, and you want to let it sit there for a little while, because what happens is the basic pH of the baking soda actually helps to break down the acidic components of the pesticides. So giving it a little scrub is also going to help, and then make sure you rinse it after. So to conclude this video, I just want to say I obviously don't have all the answers, but as I continue to research this topic more and more, it is becoming pretty clear to me that the direction that we're going is not a good one for the future. We need to start focusing more on sustainable farming, regenerative farming practices, and we need to get away from these highly sprayed monocrops. And you see them using these in highly processed foods, calling it the future of food. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just not seeing this as the solution. But hey, I might be wrong. You guys will have to let me know in the comments down below, and let me know what you thought of the whole video. And do me a favor and hit the like button, because this is the kind of video that doesn't get a whole lot of love from the algorithm. As you guys can imagine, certain advertisers or whatever might not like the content in this one. So do me a big solid, hit the like button, even share this video with like family or friends, or on a Facebook group or whatever. It would mean a whole lot to me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already, so you can see more from me, and I will see you soon with another video. How do you even make a tinfoil hat? I don't think I've ever had to do this.